How are you? All right. So thanks for watching. Whether you get me live or you watch later, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who watches this channel. So I want to talk about the new moon. So today is February the 20th, 2023. We had a new moon about 12 hours ago, so about 2 a.m. today. So again, if you've never seen me before, I gravitate more towards sidereal astrology. Sidereal is visible sky astrology, but it's not the astrology of the mainstream, the Western tropical astrology. If all of the positions of the planets sound wrong in their signs and degrees, that's why I'm using a different zodiac. I'm using the older zodiac. But I do touch upon the mainstream tropical too. So listen. All right. So very interesting new moon. There were not a plethora. There were not many big astrological events this month. But this is the big one, in my opinion. Very interesting place, very interesting symbolism. So many reasons why this one's interesting. So it's a new moon. It's a new moon conjunct Saturn in a home sign from the sidereal point of view. It's also a new moon conjunct America's natal moon, so America's birth moon. That is a huge deal. So let's look at this here. So when America was born, from a sidereal perspective, the moon was at 7 degrees of Aquarius in its third house. So third house of media, mass communications, thinking, communications, all that stuff. Tropical point of view, 1 degree Pisces. Let me see, that was in the fourth. So America's fourth house. So different kind of positioning. So fourth house deals more with like things like security. And Saturn's 3 degrees away. It's a pretty good tight conjunction. And this moon also takes place on President Dementia Joe Biden's natal K2. So K2 is your past life karma, symbolizes things that you basically, that you're fated to have to let go of in this life and have to lose. So for him in sidereal, that is what? His fourth house. So home, security, all that kind of stuff. Can deal with health too. But he's had the astrology hammer his health so many times, and he's still here. And there's a lot of different things that could be going on, but it certainly helps to have the best designer drugs in the world at your disposal. So who the hell knows? Might be like Osama bin Laden. I think bin Laden was dead by December 2001. So could be something very similar going on here. I certainly can't say for sure. All right. So yeah, so let me get to the point here, because I'm already 4 minutes in and I haven't really said anything. And I'll get back into some nitty gritties. So to me, sidereal, Aquarius, third house, new moon on America's natal moon. So, the moon is the mind. So the mind is not just the intellect. The mind is the emotional consciousness. So the intellect is only a small part of that. So America's moon, America's mind, America's emotional consciousness is in Aquarius, sign of we the people, justice, fairness, unconventionality, innovation, science, all that stuff. And it's in the third house of mass media. So America's mind is very much on all of those themes of Aquarius, combined with mass media. So it's about America's mind is very tuned with having a public that is informed. So having a new moon is a portal that we can walk through. We can enter into a slightly different reality. And this is what magic, alchemy, all this stuff is all about. It's about putting the work in, and you very gradually adjust and change your reality. So, it's not all about, the easy way is to like use a friggin' time machine or, some wormhole machine. It's like, that's the easy way. Anybody who could pay for that could take advantage of that technology. But when you put the work in, you very slowly change your reality by changing your attitude and the way you interact with your reality. And that whole idea of shifting timelines, yeah, I think there's something to it, because you change your attitudes, you change your relationship to the past, you create a new future. So these new moons, it's a monthly opportunity where you can walk through a new portal, walk into a slightly different reality. It's like if you've seen Man in the High Castle, or if you've read the novel. Really interesting, highly recommend that. But it's all about basically willing yourself into a better world. So new moons are opportunities for this, where we can do this. So very powerful that it is on the natal moon degree of America, conjunct with Saturn. Saturn is fate, responsibility. It deals a lot with destiny. It deals with following the law. So it's not so much about, the US code and your city ordinances and all that shit and your 10 commandments and, your church's rule book. It's about natural law, unchanging natural law. That's what Saturn deals with. Saturn is the master of magic that rules the 3D universe. So this is a very fated portal. It's very important, and it's inevitable. It's unavoidable. We're going through changes that we can't avoid. And Saturn keeps us honest, keeps us on our soul's path. When we don't stay on it, we suffer the consequences. Saturn gives us setbacks because Saturn is the judge of the cosmos, the enforcer of the natural law, and basically, before our soul incarnates, it basically hires Saturn as a subcontractor and says, okay, Saturn, if I start getting fake and phony and stepping off my authentic path, I want you to give me setbacks and straighten me out. So the world's collective mind, and especially America's collective mind, which is very in tune to mass media and the idea of the importance of having an informed public. We're stepping into a new portal with that, and Saturn is saying, this must happen. You will not pass go. You will not collect $200. So, and probably with Joe Biden, with having this on his natal K2, he's probably, his image is going to look worse. He's going to, he's going to look more ridiculous. I think his credibility is going to be undermined. That's how his security is going to be affected. He's being propped up by major corporate cartels, and he's not going anywhere until, unless something catastrophic happens to his health. So yeah, that's the basic deal with this. On the same day, we have Neptune at 0 degrees Pisces. Neptune transits to 0 degrees Pisces. Neptune is a co-ruler of Pisces. Neptune is at home in Pisces. Neptune is an interesting planet. It deals with, when you look at planets from an evolutionary perspective, Neptune deals with your sense of divine unconditional love that comes from within you, and then how you interact with that force in the universe. Now, the outer planets, especially beyond Saturn, the ones that are not visible to the naked eye, they deal heavily with personal evolution. So Saturn being the judge, being restrictive, kind of deals with the conformity of how you do things in this world. Well, when people get sick of that and they're like, maybe my church and my parents and, my teachers, my boss don't know everything. I want to do something different. People go beyond Saturn, which is the outermost of the celestial spheres, from the medieval times, from the Hermetic thought. Then you get to Uranus. Uranus is the gatekeeper of the gates of paradise, the ruler of heaven. This is where this idea of, the gates of heaven, people go there after they die, and St. Peter's sitting there and he decides if he's going to let you in. That's where this comes from. It's Uranus. So Uranus symbolizes the rebellion, where we want to get past conformity. We want to do things our own way and be our own selves and not be like everyone else. So, but we have to get past this rebellion. Otherwise, we're like 75, 80-year-old hippies who've been getting high every day since the late 60s. You have to get past the rebellion. You have to be weird for a little while. You have to make the changes in your life. And then you say, okay, I've changed my perspective. I'm moving on. So from the rebellion, you stop railing against the world and you say, okay, well, people are really trying their best, but they don't have the full picture. They don't have all the information. So that's Neptune, where you find that love. But you even have to move on to Pluto after that, because if you get stuck in that unconditional universal love, you're like a religious fundamentalist or you're like a woke person. They're the same exact thing. It's just whether or not, you believe in God or not, but they're the exact same. So, hardcore religious people or the woke crowd. So they're both stuck in this warped sense of universal unconditional love. They're trying to please institutions that devalue them and will never tell them that they're good enough. They always want more. God always wants more money. Church wants more money. You can never follow the rules, the commandments, and all that stuff perfectly. You're always a filthy sinner. And then with the woke, especially if you're white, no matter how much you signal virtue and how much you set yourself up as an ally to, people of all the other skin colors, you're just never good enough, and you're always a horrible, shitty racist. So it's just like with religion. You can never make Jehovah happy, right? So it's the same thing. So if you don't get past this exploratory phase of universal unconditional love, you end up devaluing yourself because you never feel good enough. You never feel like you can measure up to it. And then you have to move on to Pluto. Pluto is your soul's ultimate journey and destiny, and it's where you deal with your soul's deep wounds from this life and from every other life. You transform those, and you're a self-actualized being. You've embraced your godhood. So, yeah, so Neptune, it's home in Pisces. It's at the miracle degree during this. So depending on how people handle this relationship with this sense of, divine love, it's going to determine how people are going to fare in the future. So if people keep buying into, the martyrdom of get your shots, get your needlecraft, all that kind of thing. If people keep, buying into the devaluation of religion, they're going to be stuck. And, Neptune deals with both delusions and with, revelations. And it depends on basically your relationship with yourself and how you're relating to this Neptune energy. So if you stay in the devaluation of wokeism and religious fundamentalism, you're going to be pulling the wool over your own eyes because you're never good enough, and you're always going to have to basically conform to a group. So Saturn's conformity But when Neptune is out of balance, it's like you kind of fall back into a conformity. And that can happen, even with Uranus too. But anyway, so that's when people delude themselves with Neptune. When you can basically take this idea of universal divine love in stride and say, okay, I do have to have compassion and give everybody a basic level of respect and come from a place of love. But then you move on from that. You don't get stuck always trying to prove to the world how loving you are. So if you can do that during times when Neptune is very active and powerful, you can see through bullshit and have the biggest aha moments and the biggest revelations, and you can see sort of disclosures happening right before you that the mainstream doesn't recognize. And you can see information that was always under your nose, but you can see it for the first time and make use of it. So people are going to go one way or the other. So this new moon for the world, it is, it's the Aquarius New Moon. It's about innovation. It's about moving forward. It's about fairness, justice for all. It's about doing things differently, unconventionally, and innovating. But for America, the third house of mass media, with Saturn involved, Saturn restricting, Saturn making us follow natural law, there's going to be some news about mass media, probably about mass media, about their bias, about their corruption, about, the slants they put on things, about how 60% of their funding comes from the drug industry, for example, and then, most of the rest comes from the military industrial complex. It's going to be something about that. But again, not everybody's going to see it. Not everybody's going to believe it. Or if people see it, it's like, they're going to do the normie thing. They're going to go, oh, okay, and just go back to, watching TV or whatever. People see a lot of things, but they don't see how it's important. So, yeah, mass media a collapse has started, and I think this is going to be a milestone in that collapse, but the whole world's not going to recognize it. Again, it's not going to be like Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. Everybody go sign up for the military and get ready to be cannon fodder. It's not going to, the days of headlines that the whole world recognizes and everybody, acts like a herd of sheep in perfect unison, that's gone. So we're going to get a look at, what mass media really is and how it works. But it's not going to be, it's not the dawn of utopia, and really utopia doesn't exist. It's just not a thing. That's an Islamo-Christian concept, where it's like you've got the rapture and then everything's perfect. In reality, the world doesn't end, and it's never perfect, but it does get better. Okay, so yeah, this is a biggie here. Big new moon. Let's look at the lunar mansion. So, sidereally speaking, 7 degrees of Aquarius, where this new moon happens, is a lunar mansion called Aegion. Aegion is mythologically, that is the abode, the palace in the depths of the ocean of the god of the ocean. So Poseidon is his Greek name, Neptune is his Roman name. This is ruled by Rahu. Rahu rules technology. Rahu is the trickster, the deceiver, the illusionist. Rahu is the trickster who catalyzes evolution, because Rahu is Loki, Lucifer. The flash of lightning that starts a forest fire and burns away dead wood. So this particular lunar mansion is symbolized by white horses that are running. So in pretty much everywhere in Europe, with the mythology surrounding horses, pretty much every European mythology says horses came from across the Western Ocean. They were brought by the god of the ocean. And they're always depicted as white horses. So if you know the breed Celtiberians, this is they're white. Um, and a good example of a Celtiberian is Shadowfax from the Two Towers from Lord of the Rings, a white horse. Actually, Shadowfax is in Return of the King too. It's a white horse that Gandalf was riding. So yeah, it's interesting. All these European mythologies talk about that. And, the waves of the ocean were often depicted artistically as, thundering horses that are running. Um, Now these running horses, this is like something big, something impending that's like barreling down on you. So yeah, with this new moon taking place at America's natal moon degree, with Saturn in conjunction with Neptune transiting the Pisces on the same day. Something significant's going to come out, but it's not going to be the thing that brings utopia again. Aegeon, this lunar mansion, deals with deep intuitive messages coming to the collective mind, especially with America, coming to America's collective mind about mass media, about how that has all been working to manipulate us. Now, the thing is, with these deep intuitive messages, they're not comfortable. They're not cheery. There's like a Cassandra effect. If you're not familiar with Cassandra, Cassandra is a character from the mythology of the Iliad. So the Iliad tells the story of the Trojan War in ancient Greece. And Cassandra was a member of the Trojan royal family. She was Priam's daughter, brother to Paris and Hector. And Cassandra had the gift of premonition, of very vivid intuition. Nobody wanted to listen to her. She could see things that were coming, but they were like, you're just a storm crow. You're just a fear monger. And she was the one who said, beware Greeks bearing gifts. And it was a premonition of the Trojan horse, which Greek soldiers were hiding inside. So, and they opened the gates so that when the Greek ships came back after nightfall, they sacked the city. So, yeah. So there's a bit of this Cassandra dynamic going on. So with big intuitive messages, we always, all of us have the temptation to just ignore the messages because they're not giddy, they're not smiley, they're not pretty. And especially our modern Western society is all about being pretty, feeling giddy, being smiley, and just, really like living on the surface of things. So that's why consumerism is a lifestyle. That's why they sell alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets, on coffee on every street corner, junk food. People use these as emotional escapes. It's also why drug use is so prevalent. Why, the marijuana legalization is gaining ground. I got nothing against marijuana, but people should be able to do it, but it doesn't make people any smarter, stronger, or more courageous, that's for sure. So, yeah. And, other forms of escape and temptation are, fantasy. People live in fantasy worlds. They lie to themselves. Television, entertainment, round the clock, professional sports is all about this. It allows people to live in fantasy worlds and distract themselves from their own lives. And, another temptation in Aegeon that Aegeon deals with and is a temptation that we always have is carrying the burdens of others. Now, this is this is especially powerful with on this day Neptune transiting the 0 degrees Pisces, the miracle degree, the degree of infinite potential. So carrying the burdens of others, martyrdom, it's really a way of being narcissistic, but virtue signaling and looking altruistic. And carrying the burdens of others and being a martyr, it's a way for people to avoid dealing with their own lives and not unpacking and sorting through the problems in their own lives and doing something better with their lives. People can just run around and chase the problems of other people and be like, "Oh, I'm saving this person from this horrible whatever the fuck." So it can be narcissistic and it's an escape, and it's often an addiction for people. They never deal with their own problems. They're always trying to save somebody else. And really, Islam, Christianity, and, arguably, well, Judaism too, Buddhism, all of these religions were born in the age of Pisces, which we're ending right now. So the religions of the age of Pisces, they teach virtue signaling. They teach people to be martyrs. Because the age of Pisces is when we get the shaft. It's when the whole world has to balance its karma so that it can start a new zodiac cycle. Pisces is the 12th and final sign. So you have to balance your karma. So we get these religions where we're taught to be martyrs and we're taught to virtue signal. And we're basically, we're taught to bend over and take it from institutions of authority. So, yeah, we got to get past this. A typical, temptation to carry others' burdens and save other people. It's like you see people in the truth movement who are like, "I'm waking up the masses." It's like you can't wake up the masses. When you do that, it's like jumping in the water with a drowning person. Most likely they're going to drown you too. But it's a way of feeling good about yourself while indulging in a form of narcissism. So it's like, don't even bother. Just be an example of people helping themselves. What else did I want to say about this? Oh yeah, and if you look at this through tropical, it's 1 degree. Pisces is where this is taking place. It's in Chimera. That's the lunar mansion. Chimera is all about making a difference in the world. So yeah, a lot of people want to make a difference in the world. A lot of people do things to look like they're making a difference because, especially wealthy, powerful people, because you can manipulate people. You can play on their heartstrings. And sometimes people go out to save other people because they want to avoid their own feelings, and it's like I always tell people, it's like men pretend they don't have feelings. Women run circles around their feelings and they make up conspiracy theories about what they're feeling. So they're both avoidance behaviors, but women live a little longer because they recognize they do have feelings, but they're just as afraid of them as men are. But they probe them more typically. So yeah, this new moon, there's something about people looking like they want to make a difference, people keeping up that appearance. So yeah, interesting new moon. Biggest event of February, maybe one of the biggest new moons of the whole year. So yeah, look for some backlash against mainstream media. Mainstream media outlets losing even more of their market shares. All right, well, I'm about 30 minutes at this point. I'm going to sign off, probably make another one today. And thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Have a nice one.